So our guest speaker today we have Ms. Karen Stanley, owner of NeonFROG here in Columbus, and a marketing grad of the W, here to kind of share her experiences and what she's doing with her degree, and why you might also see the benefit of that as well. So I'm just going to let you do what you want to do.
Sounds good. Well, how many of you currently are thinking marketing may be a direction you want to go? Nobody. Man, I gotta sell something hard then today. What direction are y'all thinking you're going? Is it computer? Is it accounting? Computers? Accounting? Everybody accounting? We need lots of accountants. I mean, you know, those are good things. I will tell you this, the very first thing I did when I opened NeonFROG, I hired an accountant before I named my company. So if that tells you that I was terrified of accounting, I needed people like you in my life. There's something about owning a business that was terrifying, number one, for me. I found myself downsized out of a job and that I had done nothing to cause. I had actually made the company incredibly viable and it sold, but there was already a me on staff. There was already a marketing director on staff. So I had to make a really big decision at that point. Where was I going to go? What was going to be the next step? And I decided to open NeonFROG. It's been right at 6 years ago. And thankfully, I'm allowed to do something I love every single day. And I hope that when you guys get out and find your job, whatever direction that is that you decide you want to go, that you find that heart song, you find that thing that makes it where, one of my husband's actual favorite statement is, once you find a job you love, you never work again. And it is so, so true. Now, I'm not going to say that rainy Mondays like this doesn't make even me want to stay in bed. I have a really mean boss, and she made me get up this morning and told me I had to go to work. So that is the entrepreneur life, I guess you would say. You do definitely have to have something within you to do that. But just to kind of tell you my path and kind of how I got to NeonFROG and owning it, as I graduated from the W, I actually was recruited and hired to be a marketing director for a staffing company here in town. Now that sounds interesting and different, and I suddenly got a ton. Is anybody considering doing human resources? Good job. Go look, see if you can spend some time in a staffing company. It really gives you a lot of experience very, very quickly with exactly what human resources looks like. It's a very PC land. It is a very, you can't be friends with everybody kind of land, because after I had worked at the marketing company, which by the way was somewhere between a 70 to 80 hour a week work job. So my husband went from me working full time and going to school full time to never seeing me because I was at work full time. So it was kind of an interesting transition for me into the work world, that I suddenly had this job that was all encompassing. And HR is amazing, but you have to learn, if you don't think you're going to need sales in every part of jobs going from here forward, you're crazy. Everything is sales. Any of you have kids? Okay, so if you need them to clean their room, do you have to sell it to them that it's important for them to clean their room?
Yeah.
Do you threaten them with something? Do you take it away? How do you get them to do it? Or do you just let it go?
I bribe.
You bribe, good, which is sales.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Sales is something that you're going to find is going to flow throughout your life. And so working as a market director at the staffing agency, number one, I got this intimate glimpse into all these different types of companies. Everything was about matching the perfect candidate with the perfect job. And it was really cool because I met amazing companies, got insights into their business. And as a marketing girl, that was really cool, because even though they hired me as the marketing director, amazingly, it was a small business. We all wore lots of hats. So I was helping with staffing. I was helping match people with jobs. And it was really cool because it's amazing. I still have relationships years and years later with some of those people. Some of them have moved really far up in the company. I may have hired them into a temp job and they ended up going into a permanent job. So it's really cool to kind of see that. And HR is a great direction to go. What happened was, after working a 70, 80 hour work week for the staffing company that I did on a regular basis, I got pregnant and decided to have a baby, much to my boss's dismay, and ended up going into a full-time HR position for Lowe's. So here I was, marketing chick, now as an HR manager inside a Fortune 500 company, which was cool, because I had never worked in a company that had that many layers and levels. And so there wasn't anyone who did internal marketing. So what I found with human resources that I did, I was kind of that liaison that was helping them find employees, of course, but I also helped have things happen within the store. I helped with different events that increased employee morale. So HR can be a really cool experience. If you're thinking that you really like people and you really like helping them find that job, it's almost like putting puzzle pieces together. But you also have to realize HR, and I'll tell you this, you have to realize it's kind of a lonely job because you have to kind of isolate yourself from the staff because, you know, going to lunch with the same people every single day becomes frowned on from the upper management because they assume you're giving them some sort of preferential treatment. You may not be, but it appears that way. So it's a very PC job. So just be prepared if that's the direction you're going to go that you may have that. So as I was working in HR, I got pregnant again. And I ended up getting recruited. I only have 2 kids, by the way. The pregnant stories are over after this. But I got pregnant again and was recruited. It was right about the time Hurricane Katrina happened. And so I was working in Lowe's, which, as you can imagine, very much, we had store staff that was going down to New Orleans, going down to the Gulf Coast, trying to help rebuild that area. Well, once I figured out I was pregnant, I was out because they would not send me, of course, down there, which it was so unclean and so many bad things were happening down in that area that they knew I was not the right person to send down there. And my phone rang one day, and the Eat With Us group, are y'all familiar with them here in town? So Harvey's, Peppers, The Grill, at the time Bulldog Deli, and Park Pike, their owner called me and was like, hey, I understand you might be interested in looking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant? How do I tell this man this? I mean, it was the craziest thing I went through. But I ended up going and interviewing. They were super wonderful. I did decide to make the decision because I just looked fat. I didn't look pregnant at the point that I went to see them. So I did end up telling them that I was expecting, and they ended up hiring me anyway. And I worked for several years as their marketing director. Now, I go on to tell you all of these stories because they helped get me to where I was. I would love to tell you that if you're trying to stay locally and are looking to do a marketing position, that you're going to walk out and get some $60,000 a year job. In reality, I needed to work some in sales, and every single step along the way has ended up helping me build and be a better person as I've gotten there. Now, you can make that kind of money, you know, doing marketing. It is absolutely available to you. Accounting, same thing. I mean, everything is attainable. But realize that especially if you, even if internships are not required, which I know not every major you have to have an internship, take advantage of this time where you can and go and even do a job shadow day or intern for a week or whatever you can get. Get into the business that you're looking at because it makes such a difference of knowing for sure that that's where you want to be. I know human resources is not my heart song. It's not that I can't do it. It's not that I'm not good at it, but it just did not speak to me. And I 100% know all you accounting people. I was like doing everything I could to avoid math classes. So for me to say accounting was not my song or even remote goal, that is definitely something I immediately crossed off my list as I was going through school. But I applaud you guys because we need smart math people. And so as I worked through all of these steps, I finally got to the point of that I left the Eat With Us group. It was a lot of work, opening restaurants. At the time, I was opening a ton of Sweet Peppers Deli. It was really before the market crashed. And so I would go out of town, work in a community, help launch a marketing program for that particular restaurant, teach the staff how to kind of go out and interact with people within the community, dropping off cookies, talking about their menu, especially because it would be a concept sometimes that they had not heard of. And so that was a big part of my job. Well, left me out of town a lot. And like we talked about, 2 kids at home, my husband was suddenly basically a single dad. And it was difficult. It was really hard to travel as much as I did because to him, when I would call him at 10 o'clock, and be in a steakhouse, because I promise, after you've been around deli sandwiches all day, the last thing you want to do is eat one. So we would be in a steakhouse eating a lovely steak at 10 o'clock at night. It seemed like I was on this eternal party bus that sounded super fun as he had 2 children, 4 and under, in the house. So That was super stressful on our marriage, and when I made the decision to leave there, I ended up going to work for a company called Blue Box. It does not exist anymore, but it was the recycling company that was here in town. If you're from here, you may remember it. It was actually purchased, and that's when I found myself at my decision-making point. And I had to decide, what am I going to do? I've suddenly been downsized out of a job. I've had this amazing job. Working in recycling was like getting paid to volunteer. My job was going into schools and educating children. It was meeting with a business and explaining to them how they could take their trash and decrease the amount of trash that they had by, taking recyclable items out. It was educating our whole community, because this community still, and especially after I've been out of it for as many years as I have now, no one knows about recycling. If you moved here from a community or from outside this area, you know a lot about recycling, but in reality, the vast majority, average person in this community knows nothing about recycling. So it was a super cool job. Loved what I did. But when that ended, I had to make a really scary choice. Was I going to go find me another job, which I'm sure I would have eventually found another job. I am in this area because my husband has a business here as well, so it wasn't like I could be like, hey babe, let's move to New Orleans. This will be great. I'm going to go get another job. There were complications to what I had to make decisions with. And so with having my marketing degree, having all the different things behind me, having worked with agencies for years and years and years, I decided to be an entrepreneur and open NeonFROG. Now, what do I do on a regular basis now? I have anywhere from 12 to 15 clients on a regular basis. We're doing everything from social media, which yes, it does look like we're playing on Facebook. I promise we're not. Design and layout, work on websites. I do actually do a lot of stuff with accounting, because a lot of times I'm sitting down with people and helping them make an actual marketing budget, which amazingly across the board most people don't have. They kind of make haphazard decisions with their marketing dollars. It's kind of like, if I'm a cute little salesperson, I'm going to come walking in your office, hey, I sell newspaper ads. I was thinking about selling you a newspaper ad. I've got this great deal. This is how it works with your company. And they literally make their marketing decisions based on who's standing in their business versus having an actual dollar figure and being strategic with how they're doing it. One thing you'll learn in marketing is you have to figure out who you're talking to. So just like with HR, who you're talking to is very important as you're attempting to make those decisions. Who you'll talk to in accounting ends up being very important, because you're going to have the person who wants you to give them the 9-yard explanation of exactly how you got to this number, and then you'll have a person like me that I'm just like, so can I pay my bills this month? That's all I want to know. Am I making a profit? Can I pay my bills? Can I hire another employee? And that's what I turn to you for. If you start talking to me about numbers and giving me spreadsheets and going over that, my eyes glaze over, and eventually I start to stare at the ceiling. I don't even realize I'm being rude. That is not how my brain works. So starting my own marketing firm really was interesting for me, because I didn't know. I had done marketing for years before I started. I'd been doing marketing for about 15 years, sitting on the other side of the desk. And during that time frame, I had worked with multiple agencies. So I knew what things were good agencies did for me, and then I knew what things were kind of off that agencies did for me. I didn't like getting this giant bill because I called them and asked them to change an address on an ad, like just a little small print ad. But that's the way that I have built my agency, is to be able to work. We stay small. I work a lot with freelance designers. I work a lot with all different types of website and design and copywriters and things of that nature, because over those 15 years, I had built this giant conglomeration of people that I had met that already worked here in this area, were amazing at what they did in their businesses, but kind of would like to make a little extra cash on the side, because who doesn't need a side hustle these days? In all reality, the way bills are, the way your income is, whatever it is that whether it's you want to go on some super awesome vacation or need to pay for a kid's braces, there's almost always something budget-wise that you need a little extra income from. So working with a lot of different freelance artists, what's great about what we do at NeonFROG is I don't have someone sitting in that chair waiting for me to bring a job to them. So if I don't have any clients who need any design work, my designers aren't like, Karen, I have nothing to do today. I am literally calling a designer and saying, hey, I need a flyer, I need a logo, I need this. And I know each of their thumbprints, because in all reality, every part of design, if any of you are any of you thinking of going into graphic design, or you're kind of leaning in that direction, well, I can tell you, you will develop what you will consider a thumbprint. It will be a look. It's not that you can't go away from your look. You can, but it becomes challenging. And so I am able to pick which of my designers is the right fit for a client. So some of my designers have a much more girly style, for lack of a better term there. I pair them when I have businesses that come to me that are looking for that type of look. I get them to do their work. But I'm working with medical community people. I don't need my girly designer making a medical logo. That's going to be a bad fit. So it's been really nice to be able to work with different freelance artists to really pair the right artist with the right client. And it also helps save my clients a good bit of money. Doesn't always mean it's going to be as fast, just because those people are usually working full-time jobs somewhere. But it does allow us to have this great partnership and to really put together pieces that the clients are super happy with. Tell me, can I answer a question maybe about what marketing is like? Do y'all want to know a little more about like what an average day looks like for me? Okay, so with marketing, the one thing I can tell you is probably the most every day is different kind of job. Not that accounting isn't, but Stanley, you're going to be working with numbers. Not that graphic design isn't, because graphic design is going to do that. Are any of y'all just doing general business? That was where I was when I first started as well. I really didn't know which direction I wanted to go. Any of you looking at public relations? No PR people. I did just recently, in the last year, get my APR, which is Accredited in Public Relations. And in this particular area, public relations and marketing, even though they're very different things, are very much usually done by one person. So you kind of have to be, because I had gotten my awesome marketing degree from here, I knew I needed that APR to kind of talk about the fact that I know how to do public relations. So those two things meshed together really do help me when I go in to sit down with a client, depending on what their needs are. But an average day for me, number one, we come in this morning on a Monday. Me and my staff sat down, we pulled up our client list, we went through a to-do list of what does everybody have on their plate to do. So some people are sending proposals this morning. We are reaching out to some of our designers to find out why we didn't get stuff over the weekend and where the heck is it, because the client's expecting it. We talked about deadlines that we have, ads we need to produce and get placed with media. You do get a very good, in marketing or PR, you're going to get a very big relationship with the media. So be your newspapers, your radio stations, your television stations. These people end up becoming extensions of your business, because if you don't have that good relationship with them, and so much so a good relationship that you can look at a client and say, oh, it's great that you're launching a brand new toothbrush today. Just so you know, no one cares. Like, we're going to put it out here, but you have to be able to guide your client to explain to them what is media worthy and what is not. And that's difficult, because every client pretty much thinks if they're doing something, the media should come cover it, wouldn't you? Think about it. If you were a business, you just wrote the best paper ever, you know that you're fixing to get an A on it. Wouldn't be super cool if the TV station showed up to show you getting your super A after you worked your butt really, really hard to get that project to the point of completion. You don't want to be on TV, do you? That's also another thing I work with, is also preparing my clients to be on TV. On a regular basis, I will sit down with a client before they actually go on television to work with them and talk to them about what are we going to do with these, who are we going to look at, what do I need to say, making sure that they are not so scripted that they literally get in there, the reporter asks them a question and they go, and I want to tell you about our event on Thursday. Because literally, you will work with clients that's exactly how they respond. I had a client one time freeze on television, couldn't speak at all, was there to talk about it, and the poor girl trying to interview her just kept going, so can you tell me about Tuesday? She just sat there. I mean, like, and it was live television. There was nothing I could do. Like, I'm back there going, it starts at 4. Like, trying to give her something off screen. She completely froze. And what happened was her boss, told her she was going to be the one on TV because her boss didn't want to do it. That was the first error. She was so nervous and so scared she was going to let her boss down that legitimately when she got on TV, she didn't just let her boss down. She let the whole world down because the poor girl trying to interview her is like reading off the paper. Well, it'll be at Krispy Kreme and it starts at 4 and we're so glad Susan could join us today. Like, I mean, she just literally looked like a frozen popsicle. I mean, no expression change, no nothing. And that's probably one of the most painful things I've been to because then once they cut the cameras, she's looking to me and she's like, was it that bad? I mean, what do you say? You didn't say anything, so it could have been worse if you said a cuss word. But it was a very difficult conversation to have with that particular client afterwards because we discussed she's not your person to go on TV. She may be an amazing manager. She may be great with customers. TV cameras freak her out. And had that boss listened to her because she told her that before she went on air that she was terrified, that she didn't think she could do it. And just because the boss didn't want to do it, she was like, you're going to be fine. Well, she found out she wasn't fine. And I hated that because, I mean, she literally, like cried all the way as I drove her back to their shop and just cried and was so upset because it was a nonprofit event they were doing to raise money. And here it was, it just fell apart. And they still had a fairly successful event, but we missed it. I mean, media appearances are huge. You can't pay for that kind of advertising. And so, yeah, that was a really, really tough day. But my average day is going to be all over the place. I'm speaking to you guys. I'm going to a website meeting this afternoon to sit down with a client to talk to them about how they want their website. Anybody thinking they want to go into web design? No? Maybe? Awesome. I would encourage you guys, while you're still in school, take a graphic design class or two. It will benefit you in almost any job you're going into. Most jobs now, they need you to make a flyer, they need you to put something together that looks halfway decent to send out to the employees. There's not many business jobs now that you don't need a little bit of arms wrapped around graphic design. And I would say if you have time and can get into an early level I'm not saying you have to do a graphic design major, but it will be beneficial for you. I didn't. Because I can absolutely tell my designers exactly what I want to do, but if you give me InDesign or you give me some of the different design tools, I'm clueless. I can't use them, and it's very, very frustrating. So I would say to you, while you're still this early, think about that as you're choosing your classes, because accounting might be the only one. Y'all need to use a lot of Excel and then come to my office and sit down with me and tell me how to use Excel. But other than that, accounting is probably the only business major that I would say you won't use graphic design as much. Although I can say presenting a really pretty spreadsheet versus an ugly spreadsheet does make a difference. And y'all will learn that. And I mean, Excel gives you some great tools to do that with. But my days are never the same. There is always something different. We never know when the phone's going to ring with a client that has an emergency. We helped deal with the Jack situation. If any of y'all saw that go through the news not too long ago, I was involved, sort of, with one of my clients. That was a rough day. Actually, it was a rough night. Everything started hitting the internet about 10 o'clock. I just happened to check my phone, and I was like, oh, dear God, what is this? I don't want to read those words. So, yeah, that was really interesting. And you never know what's going to happen. You have to be ready to handle those tough things. You have to know, everybody's seen Mad Men. Yes, at least one episode. No, we don't all drink, although I might have a glass of wine at lunch every once in a while. But it's not quite Mad Men. Mad Men is a very old, outdated way to look at an advertising agency or a marketing firm. We don't work that way anymore, in reality. There's not that many of us that get to come together on a regular basis. Most agencies now have a lot of their people that are freelance just like me, because there's some awesome website designer that they can't afford to keep on staff because they don't have that many websites. They'd rather them have their own website agency and contract, almost like white label, and say, yes, this is the XYZ agency that's making this website. And that's the interesting part with websites. Websites, have any of you ever been involved on putting a website together, known someone who has? Did they have a good experience?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my uncle has that kind of business.
Okay.
So, I mean, So.
It's a tough
It
business
is,
to be in.
especially like the area that he's in is kind of underdeveloped, and so a lot of times he's kind of talking to more outdated folks, and they're like, don't even know how to use the internet, and he's trying to pitch them, but you need the internet.
Yes. It's an employee who works for you 24/7, 365, never takes vacation, never takes sick days. That's what a website is for most businesses these days. I'm embarrassed to say that NeonFROG does not have a website. Every time my website makes it to the top of the list, and if you actually go out and look at neonfrog.com, you will see it's a cute little frog looking at a coming soon sign that says, every time we get to the top of the list, we get another website that we're working on for someone else. And that's the one thing that I have really had to push myself, because with marketing, your goal is to market yourself. That's what I'm supposed to do for me too. The bad thing is when you're so busy taking care of everybody else, you forget to market yourself. And unfortunately, grabbing does not seem to drag people in our front door anymore. So we actually have started doing that. But for us, having a website is super important. But as your uncle can probably tell you, most people are like, here, let me write you a check. Okay, call me when you got my website done. Unfortunately, that is the exact opposite of what you need. We end up having to kind of baby step them through, literally breaking it down step by step. Okay, we have to have a homepage, we have to have pictures, I have to have data about what your company does, and that is very painful to add on to your already very busy life. And I mean, we've had accountants we've ended up working with to finally get websites done. We've had owners that just stop returning our emails after a certain amount of time, and we're just like, hello? You can't finish your website. Like, you've got to finish, you've got to tell us something. So websites are definitely, be prepared if that's a direction you go down, or if your boss adds that as a side job that you're going to add in. Just know, I usually tell people it takes about 9 months, about as long as it takes to deliver a child, to make a website. We can do it faster, but it all relies on them. And in all reality, when you add something like that, imagine if I told you on top of everything you guys have right now, that you have to go build a website. Just on you. Not on anything big, just on you. A report on exactly who you are, what you do every day, what's making you want to go to school, what's, just the story of you. Putting all that together is amazingly difficult. I actually think it's harder to market yourself than it is to market other people, because I am all about being able to toot somebody else's horn, but it is kind of hard when you turn that horn internally and are like, hey, I need to tell people that I'm one of the only people in this area that practices in this field that has my APR. Hey, I need to tell people that, I went to the W, I have this education, I have 15 years knowledge, actually more than that now, of this particular community and how it works. It's really interesting when you go to try to market yourself, so that is something to think about if you're going to go into that field. Each of you will use marketing for whatever job you do. Make sure your resume is perfect. And by perfect, I mean please read it 4 to 10 times before you ever hand it to someone. Don't just sit on Indeed and hit apply, send the exact same resume over and over again and wonder why you're never getting any interaction. Craft your resume to fit the position you're looking to get, and get as much experience between now and the time you graduate. You will be, if you take a summer and go do an internship somewhere outside of this area, that stuff is going to be helpful for you. I don't care what your major is. Get that experience. If you think it's where you want to go sit in a business and make sure it is, because I can tell you, you will easily identify if it's not. You'll realize if you get a good place to work with, they will help you see this is my vision or this isn't my vision. So don't wait until the very last minute. I don't want to take up y'all's whole class. I hope I've given you somewhat of a vision into what marketing is like. It definitely, to me, is my heart song. I love that I get paid to do what I do. I love my clients. I love working with them every single day. I also loved it when I was on the other side of that desk and was sitting in a business and had just one-ish company that I was marketing. It's a whole different level of commitment when you're just working for one business, how deeply invested you will become within that company in what you're doing, especially if you're passionate and you enjoy it. But marketing is definitely, to me, the choice that I would not change for a heartbeat that I did before. So I hope as y'all make those decisions and find your paths and explore other options to make sure that if there's a question out there, because originally I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. Thank you, God. I did not choose that as my major, but you know, that has paid off for me as well, because I do regular stuff on the television stations now, and you do have to kind of know how to handle yourself in a way when you're sitting in front of that TV to not make yourself look like a total goofball, although I've done that too. So, any other questions I can try to answer? All right, good luck. Choose marketing.
Absolutely.
Good.
Whether they know it or not, they're going to realize this is very useful and
I
helpful in their
hope
career. At
so.
some point,
I
they're gonna
hope
figure it
so.
out.
Are y'all all freshmen? Sophomores? Juniors? Awesome. Seniors? Love it. So some of you have already kind of committed at this point, yes? Good.
It's never too late to change.
It is not, but I wish you guys luck. So nice to meet you all.